Yeah, we always have.
You always have?
I mean, we can go back to that, to combine and not use this system. One or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's clear over here.
yeah, something.
I know it's not
here.
very helpful.
Now can hear. Wait a minute.
Oh, they can hear.
That's what Richard said.
How are we getting that?
Right.
Okay, now can hear.
But you don't know what you did.
It's still got the exclamation point. there.
Yeah, I heard you say my name. Okay, I thought that.
Okay. We were talking about,
Yes. The short-term
So I think
rental
it
law
makes
versus the
sense
ADU.
for the select board to take the lead on the short-term rental bylaw as a general bylaw.
mhm,
Let the planning board focus on ADU and how that'll be treated for rentals.
mhm,
And my sense is they want to prohibit that
yes,
from short-term rentals, any new ADUs that are permitted. So that can stand alone and you can move forward with any changes to the short-term rental bylaw.
So I thought where we left off was you had provided a sample.
I give you Gloucester as an example.
Okay,
So it'd be helpful to have some feedback on that, and what other parameters you'd like to try to incorporate.
okay. Would you mind resending it? Because I
Yep.
probably was longer than 30 days ago and it probably
Yes.
fell
Yes.
off my email. Thank you. Okay. So then this action here for February 18th, is that really an update from the planning board on the ADUs? Or do we want to use that time to discuss short-term rentals?
the planning board doesn't meet again until after the 18th, so
Okay, so we
they
should,
won't have any more information. So why don't we use that to discuss?
okay. So let's remove that note then, update from planning board.
Yep.
Then I'm no longer confused. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay.
Fine. In that case, the first item on our agenda is the Sustainability Committee interview with Max. I'm sorry, I was.
Should I sit up here?
Oh, you-
I don't know.
Yeah. So tell us why you want to waste spend your evening
Sure.
with a committee.
Well, I'm interested in joining the sustainability committee. There's an open, vacant, position on it. So I've, moved here 3 years ago and I've been interested in joining for all this time, actually. Now a position actually opened up and a friend who's already just asked if I would be interested.
You gave us a brief resume, but a little more about
course.
what your professional and educational experiences fit in.
Sure, absolutely. So my master's degree is in public policy with an energy environment focus from UCLA some years ago, and ever since, my work has been in the kind of sustainability world. So with the sustainable finance nonprofit called Series, which is based in Boston, the insurance practice there, engaged with insurance companies and regulators and shareholders on climate and environmental issues. Why we should take them seriously. This is a few years ago, and I think we're now seeing, unfortunately, the impacts challenge. Well, let's say the impacts that climate change in influence events can have on housing markets. Los Angeles, obviously, being the most recent. Since then, I was then working for an investment consulting firm. It's called Mercer here in the city, and I was in one of the sustainable investing practice there. So I was helping investors, pension funds, insurance companies, endowments, foundations figure out what they wish to do around kind of sustainability topics. That could be kind of environmental or social issues, and then helping them develop plans of action to invest their capital effectively to achieve those objectives. So yeah, so that's been a bit of my background.
Good, Max, it's good to meet you. Have you been involved with town committees and earlier in your life at all, or is this your first foray into kind of town government
Not-
activities?
Not directly, no.
Okay,
And not in certainly not Manchester.
all right, fine. Well, that's good. Your perspective is interesting because you've got kind of a high level view.
Yes.
Things tend to be a little granular here. Have you been involved or attended a couple of the meetings?
Well, a few of the town meetings, yes, but,
Okay, but I mean, this committee or you know somebody on the committee?
yes, no, Jen, and, oh, sorry, excuse me, I did, attend the last sustainability.
All right, so you know,
Meeting, yes.
you know who the players are a little bit.
Exactly, here's some of the agenda items and give my own, you know, thoughts and reflections. So one idea in particular is, trying to make more of the town's, let's say, various pieces of information that exist out there. You know, if we can get a breakdown of, say, trash, solid waste that's going to landfill versus recycling rates, you know, Black River has that, DPW probably has that. There's, you know, kind of making that more accessible, to the average citizen. Can
For
help.
example, it doesn't go to a landfill at all.
Yes. Doesn't?
No,
Consider
we said
it-
nothing to a landfill.
Okay.
We've got an incinerator.
You know,
Well, I said that, but yeah, the committee wasn't,
Yeah.
some may know that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that, and then, you know, energy consumption, of course, the town. There's a lot of information that's just kind of out there. How many of our residents in this, you know, zip code have taken advantage of mass save energy programs, for example, because that's, well, I have as well, so. if-
6 months ago, yeah.
it can be a big
Fantastic, yeah.
savings for the town, for populace, for, you know, individuals, and so. Well, of course, yeah, there are environmental benefits as well, so, it's kind of just trying to package that up. And this was in the context of thinking about the sustainability committee's, revamp of their website. So what more can we do to engage, the town citizens?
Okay, well, that's great. I've really kind of the crux of my questioning was, have you got ideas?
Yes.
Because new people means new ideas, and this sounds great. So it sounds like you'd be a really good contributor. So good, thanks.
You have a great resume here. It sounds like you're the perfect person for this job, so
Well, thank you.
thank you for stepping up and your interest.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I was just kind of piggybacking on John's question. Mine is really around sustainability is a pretty broad topic.
Yeah.
And you mentioned ideas that you have, but is there a particular area of sustainability that you're passionate about or wanted to focus on?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think part of what I'm thinking about is the mandate of the committee. You know, I don't want to get too expansive because yes, this can mean a lot of things to a lot of people and, you know, the United Nations, this Brundtland Commission back in the 1980s, broadly thought about what does sustainability mean, and it was in the context of sustainable development. So it's really about meeting the needs of current generations while not, you know, negatively impacting overly future generations' ability to meet their own needs. So in that context, you know, thinking about legacies, thinking about how can we also, you know, preserve the way of life of this town with rising sea levels, with increasing heat wave droughts we've seen in the last few years in our region and wildfires down the road, which is pretty unusual. I'm born and raised in Massachusetts, and these were new things, you know, my few decades here. So all this to say, things are changing. You know, our insurance was canceled on our home this year. We had to go out and find another one, which is thankfully okay. They ended up actually saving money, which is great. But all this to say that was kind of just an indication that bigger pieces are in play, and this town, you know, can be impacted by all these global things happening because
Mhm.
this perspective.
Thank you. And
No,
thank you
no,
for
thank you.
stepping up and volunteering. Appreciate it.
I don't, you have covered anything that I was going to ask. Jeff, I think you have
Ready
a
for a
motion.
motion? Yep. I move that the select board appoint Max Servy,
Thank you.
okay, to the Sustainability Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yes.
Anne says yes. Kathy?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff? Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
stepping up.
Very much, Max.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
You.
Meet you.
Okay. Quarterly reviews. The police chief is first.
So here we are again.
Congratulations on the recertification.
Yeah.
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 Reaccreditation.
Reaccreditation, yeah. I sent you the email. today.
Yeah.
Open to anyone that wants to join us.
Maybe we should carpool.
Yeah. Maybe they're riding the cross. So I guess, over the last quarter, things have been kind of slow, which is not.
Well, except for kidnapping
Yeah, I mean, not out of the ordinary, but, this time of year, I guess. We did have that one call. But as a result of some, I guess, some inquiries from a couple of residents in regards to our emergency preparedness and Greg's article in the Cricket last week, my memo to you guys has highlighted sort of the high level things that we've been doing for emergency preparedness. Working with Jake has been wonderful. As you can see, there's been a lot of things that we've done, things that we're focused on moving forward. I think some FY 25-26 goals for emergency management is, Jake and I were just talking about the community emergency response team, getting that set up. I've had a couple of residents reach out that have expressed their interest. Ipswich has a phenomenal team, which I think we're gonna kind of regionalize with them. They got 20 or 30 members, and so we might piggyback on some of their training. Expanding the Cape Ann Emergency Response Planning Team to Hamilton and Wenham, since our shelter, our regional shelter is gonna be in Wenham. Bring them on board, so we have a little, some more assets to pull from. And the Cape Ann Regional team is gonna expand into quarterly meetings with you guys and town leadership and town administrators and mayor's offices. Moving forward, so more to come on that. The regional shelter project, I'm hoping to be done with that, since Manchester is the spearhead of it, hoping to be done with that in this quarter. Actually, a call tomorrow with MAPC. Regards to the next steps, things that we're working on at the regional level is Cape Ann evacuation routes. More to come on that, and the chief and I were just talking about the emergency management funding here for the town. We're gonna get together and probably bring back something at one of your next meetings, I hope, and bring it to the finance committee before the emergency management budget is voted on. It's actually under the fire department. I'm not sure when you're going up to them, but there's some ideas and some things that we want to present just to expand on what we're currently doing. One of the things that I'd like to see expanded with some of that emergency management funding is we have a drone operator, and we currently own a drone. Like to ask that Sergeant Machine, who's our licensed drone operator, to become a member of the NEMLIC drone team, which would he'd be called out for mutual aid situations where there's barricaded suspects and missing persons and stuff like that.
NEMLIC is,
The Northeast Mass Law Enforcement Council.
okay.
Yeah, which we became a part of last year. So other than that, that's pretty much a high level overview of the emergency management. Once again, we're starting to recruit for parking enforcement. Haley Donovan has been with us for the last couple of years. She's gonna go to the full-time police academy, I'm thinking in June. We currently don't have a position for her. However, we have a sponsorship program in which she takes on most of the all of the liability and all of the expenses. Then she would come out, be full-time police academy trained, and we could put her to work as a reserve right away. Or my thought is she's gonna get scooped up by
Mhm.
someone that needs a full-time academy trained person. Community policing, working with Tiffany on a fundraiser for the Comfort Dog. For Daisy, we developed a corporate sponsorship program, that will be coming out shortly. Tiffany's been a big help on that. New website's been launched, updated, some of the things that we, instead of people coming in to renew their firearms licensing, they can get all the forms and, direct contact with Officer Mullins, who's our firearms licensing officer, through the website. That's been a huge help. And budget, we're on, still remaining sort of on track the way we were last quarter. Haven't got any worse. We've made some changes to staffing, especially not staffing the lobby as much as we were. Hasn't proved any either way, whether it's really worth it or not. We still have people coming in all the time to seek assistance or see an officer. And one of the big things, Mike, for one of the personal highlights, I don't know if you saw that I was selected one of 18 Essex County officers to attend the Holocaust Memorial on April 8th down in Washington, DC. And the purpose of this is to educate law enforcement officers of the current day of the role that they played in Nazi Germany back in World War II, and that's sponsored by the Lapin Foundation and Cliff and Susan Rucker Charitable Foundation. So I'm really looking forward to that. People I've talked to, and officers that have gone before me, have said it's really moving and a really good experience. So I'm happy to do that one day. So that's kind of where we're at this quarter. And I guess, like I said, the focus is still in emergency management.
Question I have, and it's probably for fire chief as well. I don't like having things stored in multiple places. So I'm wondering how you're working with having your website and separate from the town website.
Well, we have direct links on my website, so it's a direct links to the town services. So
Okay, is there a corresponding link
yes, for the town website.
to the town website? So if I want to renew my firearms license,
You go to the town website.
I go to the
it
town.
goes right down.
Okay, so it is reasonably well integrated. It's just anytime you have a piece of information stored in two places, one of them's wrong.
Or not updated, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I trust that you and Tiffany or whoever are
Oh,
working
yeah.
together to make sure that the stuff that's police.
There's gonna be one source of truth for data.
Yeah.
So links to a website don't really address that. That's more around the usability. Can someone find this
Yeah.
stuff? You're poking at something that I was gonna poke at as well, because I spent most of my career getting rid of disparate websites, because over time, it gets expensive. Doesn't seem like that now, but if you are not using the same software for your communication to the community, and you're using something different, and Parks and Rec is using something different, and the town is using something different, that's 4 or 5 different vendors that we're dealing with, and over time, that gets expensive and we need to stop doing it. Okay, so I think this is a separate discussion about who's responsible for your IT spend, but this kind of stuff gets out of hand very quickly, because you get attached to your software, you like it, and it serves your purpose, but over time, it gets very expensive, in addition to the data not matching if you try to communicate with other departments that might have their own stuff. So I just think it's something we don't want to propagate, and we should probably at some point take a look at what we've already done. It's something we gotta watch.
So maybe an action for after town meeting.
Yeah.
To look at the structure of websites in town. I know how frustrating it can be to have to work with something that's not yours, because you don't have the right to change your information, and going through a hierarchy to get stuff that you want to get out quickly is really frustrating. That,
Well, but I mean, department heads do have the authority to add and delete content from their page.
Okay.
That's how the town website works. Yeah, so we've got fire, police and park and rec. Those are the three. that are
Fire,
out
police,
there.
park, and town.
Besides
The main.
Yeah.
Besides the main.
So our website is a total package with our public relations contract every year.
Yes, right. Right. But what about Board of Health? They just rely on the town. There's no other unique ones.
Correct.
Okay, good. That's good. We don't want any more. This is what we're saying. And it's, like I said, at some point, the more sophisticated you get using your software, the more you will want to share data with most likely, the fire department. It could be other, the 911, that's another software package, right? So, North Shore 911, they have their own software that we use.
Well, we use IMC with them.
Right, so that's another, so I'm just saying,
That's not a separate website.
It's not a-
that's right, it's not a website, that's true. But the more you have this disparate stuff, the more you will want to share data to make your life easier or the residents' life easier, and it just, it gets out of hand. After town meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of on that point, Todd and I use the same vendor, and the reason we do that is when we have a sensitive topic, like, what happened a few weeks ago, we make one phone call and they articulate it in a safe, direct manner. So everything is kind of cohesive, if you will, at least on the public safety side of things.
That's awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, and that service that's provided, like the chief just said, is invaluable in
Right.
situations.
Yep.
A vital, important piece that we don't have to manage during, they have crisis, and the website is just an offshoot.
So it's a service you're buying, and the website is just a piece of the service.
Mhm.
So that's a whole package. Yeah, so.
As long as you guys are on the same thing and the Harvard master is not on something different.
that makes sense.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
John?
Yeah, no, I read your report, Todd. Looks very complete. Always seems like you're very, very busy, which you are, I think, every quarter. And the fact that there's a lot of teamwork that's getting involved with all of this emergency preparedness stuff is important. I was wondering about the funding that you had brought up. All of this stuff takes time and money, et cetera. Is that funding, I know a lot of the funding that is associated with emergency preparedness, there are various grants and types of things. Are you saying we're still gonna need more grants, or is this kind of an internally financed thing, or both?
So the only grant that we take advantage of right now is the emergency preparedness grant,
Mhm.
the emergency management preparedness grant, the EMPG, and that's how we purchased the drone. That's how we purchased the UTV that we got this year. But that's only $5,500. And it's based on the size of your town, not. It's based on the population, not how financially well off you are.
Sure.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So we can look, well, obviously, if there's something that comes up, we'll take advantage of it, but that's pretty much all we do take advantage of for emergency preparedness.
Okay, so other than that, internally, we have to, well, you will come to us and say, this is how much money we need to keep.
The budget, I believe, was like $7,500, and most of it went to the Smart 911, but now that regional's taken over that, I see this year it's been cut to $1,500. So again, if we want to prepare ourselves and do some training and make sure that we have the community response teams available to us, we're gonna have to fund certain things for them. So
Okay.
that's what we're trying to pull together.
All right, that's good. Another question I had was on the parking, and I know we're gonna be talking parking in general, but I know you want to expand the number of sticks that you've got out there. I was just curious, like for fire hydrants, and you had mentioned that, like, you'll put them there. How does it respond to that? Do people kind of stop there for a minute to drop somebody off, or is that like after a few minutes, a stick would say?
You could set it up whatever you want.
Any way you want,
Anyway,
say,
so like the 2 hour limit, it's like a 7-minute grace period.
fine, even if it's a fire hydrant, but if it's more than 7, well, you've gone someplace.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Okay, that's good. And our dog's a walking billboard. This is,
Walking billboard. Trying to come up with creative ways to fund it, so.
Okay,
I mean, we're doing okay right now with some of the funding that we've already received, but, you know, we're also.
all right. Have you prospected around people that say, hey, this is a good idea, I'm in? Or it's not there yet?
Tiffany will be doing that very shortly.
Okay, I'm curious. Great.
Thank you for all your hard work this quarter. Yeah, it looks great. Congratulations on being selected for the Holocaust project. I'm sure that'll, yeah, that should be interesting. Emergency preparedness wise, what do you think us as a town, what is our biggest hurdle there?
Flooding,
Yeah.
flooding in your infrastructure. When we did the drill or the tabletop exercise, the biggest concern was our wastewater treatment. And obviously, your public safety. But we lose the wastewater treatment, I mean, there's months and months and months to get back online and pumping all your sewage into the ocean.
The evacuation routes is another flooding issue. Because there are at least 3 spots where 127 is vulnerable. So
I don't think we're as bad as Gloucester and Rockland, you know, but that's something we're gonna have to address with that emergency response team.
the 127 just at the Beverly line, I have seen it with ocean
Oh, yeah.
on it.
I mean, I foresee 128, if we have to evacuate this area, 128, you know, the 4 lanes, the northbound, southbound lane going south. And working with the states, because similar to what would happen on Cape Cod, because the Cape has a pretty good plan for that. So I think it's basically working with the state police and all the communities along 128 to shut down 128 and everybody just leaves.
That's gonna be hard if it floods at,
Exactly. So it's all about when I went to the hurricane preparedness down in Miami, it's all about early and often, getting the message out, making the call earlier rather than late. So you do your.
you don't end up having everybody in Gloucester and
Right, exactly.
doubling in Dogtown.
And you do it exactly.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, just one, couple things. I was also looking at the annual report, I think that you had sent out the stats. Just looking from 2019 to 2024. They look great. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
so I'm curious, 2 questions. Number 1, car crashes went way down that you responded to, and I was curious if those numbers include what happens on 128, or is it just in the streets of the town?
It is any crash we respond to. So it
Any
would
crash,
happen
so
on
even if it
128.
happened to be on 120, that's quite a significant drop.
And
That's,
if you see the arrests are up.
yeah, the arrests are up, the animal control is way down, the false alarms, I guess, or just alarms in general, way down, disorderly conduct, way up. So just the numbers themselves are very interesting. Is there anything that we need to know or that where we could be of help?
No, not really. The arrest increase is, I put it due to a younger, more motivated police department.
Okay,
That's my take on that.
Okay.
You know, they're out there doing their motor vehicle stops.
Yep.
A lot of it, I think the operating under the up too.
okay, yep.
So that's just my take on it.
Your take is better than the rest of ours, so I'm happy with that.
I don't think the call volume, I don't think the nature of the calls has changed. I just think it's more proactive.
Okay. And we're going to talk parking later, so that was it. Just thank you. I think everything's going great.
You already did me.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay.
I could pretend that I just wondered if I.
You're discussing Brian, that's all. I gotta pick up Brian's slack over here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, hey,
So everything for the fire department is going pretty well. We're making some forward progress. We had some goals which we accomplished this past quarter. One of the things that we completed was an evaluation of every employee, and then the officer and your officer evaluations of me. We kind of did a 360 kind of look and came up with strengths and weaknesses, and then we made some group changes and shuffles to optimize our strengths and limit our weaknesses. This past, they just finished up moving groups around last week. So that's going well. Vehicles and stuff, we're still borrowing, thankfully, the Linfield engine. Their station is looking to be complete somewhere late fall, so we'll say early spring. But the chief said that as long as their apparatus stays status quo, we can maintain borrowing that engine, which is a big relief for me, at least for sustainability and having a backup if something happens. So it's mirrored to our current truck, so literally the training is identical, so the guys just switching it out as we need it. And that gives us the ability to do oil changes, preventative maintenance, which I think some of which was done. I think some of it has been more particular as of late to make sure that we get the longest lifespan out of our apparatus that we can possibly get. We worked with Specialty Vehicles at Rosenbauer. They had a source well contract with the state, which basically allows us to spec a truck and order the truck pending appropriation, which sounds like that's never going to be in a contract ever again. But we were able to utilize that to our advantage. And as long as we get the appropriation for the next 3 years, we'll save a little over $200,000 by getting it today's money versus waiting until FY28, and then we have the lead time. So that was a big plus in maintaining our apparatus replacement plan and kind of keeping us on track with that. Staffing, we've had no issues. The overtime is on target. I'll kind of go over the percentages in a moment. One of the biggest pushes or needs for the next fiscal year, I know we've talked about it the last 2 years, is adding a day staff position. Just for consistency, if I fall off the edge of the earth, the fire department should not skip a beat. And we're not at that point. I'm not saying I'm great, but we're not at that point yet. And I think that's something that we need to be at. And we can kind of discuss that further. Call firefighters are working out great. We have one firefighter who's kind of doing a performance improvement plan just to increase productivity and responses and things like that. But overall, overwhelming success. Software, our first due is up and operational. All the modules have been in service. One of the things that we found during one of our reviews is documentation of calls. For instance, if we go to a lifeline activation for a lift assist, was that getting documented as a false call because no one was transported versus a medical call? So all the staff and the officers, we have a quarterly meeting coming up, and everyone's going to be streamlined so our data is apples to apples. We kind of eliminating some of the gray area. One of the big things that was on my to-do list was to get the burning permits in our first due system. This doesn't sound like a big feat, but it is because people get into our Community Connect system, which gives us the ability to get information that they want to provide to us. So when we respond to somebody's house, we know, especially with this cold weather, where their water shutoffs is a big one, so we can limit the damage of a pipe burst, things like that. So we've had an overwhelming positive response to the public about that system. And I think in the past 2 weeks, we've sold, 30 burning permits, but we've had 60 people sign up for our Community Connect. So it's working out very, very well. Training, the crews do training every day. You probably see them out and about. They're required to do something every day, and then there's 2 trainings a month. each group's assigned, one's a bigger training, which is more involved, the other training is more specific, for instance, ice rescue, auto extrication, et cetera. Coming up, we'll be working with Essex, hopefully Hamilton, Wenham, and Ipswich on combined ice rescue incident, because if we have something like that, we need the extra staff and safety. We have initiated a lockbox program, which I am shocked at the outpouring of requests for lockboxes in town. So we installed, I think, 7, and I have 15 or 16 people on the waiting list for the next grant opportunity. And that was a regional grant again with Essex, which was very well received. So that went very, very well. Other than that, we're working on updating our SOPs and SOGs. We're aiming to 6 to 8 a month, depending on how complex they are. I just don't want to overwhelm everybody with too much change at once, so we can do it little by little. Other than that, our overtime, like I said, is going well. As of today, we are 56% through our fiscal budget. We've expended 55% in salaries and 59% in operating costs. And the operating costs is mainly due, that kind of bump is our ambulance inspection was last month, so we have to replace equipment, and some of the consumable equipment that expires. Overall, it's on trajectory to beyond budget for. Other than that, I can't say enough about my counterparts in public safety. Just during the snowstorm, a crew reached out to me, said, we showed up to a medical and the DPW had already plowed the street and the driveway because they were right there. That is something that, we should be proud of, and, having all the departments working together really, the community sees it and I see it, and it's a huge benefit that you don't see in a lot of other places. So. Okay.
If you were to find yourself in a position where you needed plowing, do you have a way of?
So the DPW was monitoring our frequency on the overnight. They heard the medical come in. They had a plow already on Summer Street and went to the address that we had, and they were already in process. But we have them in our radios as well, so we can call them on their channels.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was literally, we didn't even ask. It was already done, which is pretty impressive.
So I have some questions just around, we talked about emergency preparedness with Chief Fitzgerald. The wildfires out in California, right? So it's on everybody's mind. We had our little sparks that we had over the fall. That, and just in general, out of all the, 9 square miles we have here, where is the biggest risk from a fire standpoint?
So we just finished up the Cape Ann, Cape Ann wildfire preparedness plan. So they looked at the Cape Ann as a region. We have hopefully getting additional funds to actually go in and actually look at the depth and how thick the woods are. Right now, I'd say our biggest risk is probably from Pine Street to Beverly Farms and the Crooked Lane up in that area. One of the things that we've been working with now, thanks to Chief Fitzgerald, we were able to use the emergency preparedness grant to get that side by side, which increased our ability to get into the woods and actually look at the trails, see where our hazards are. One of the other areas, we look at water supply. That was a big thing that came up in California. Chuck and Nate, we've been in conversations with the water supply. Some of the infrastructure upgrades that we've been doing has made a big difference. Now, if we see, I haven't responded to an email yet. We've had a bunch of emails coming in from residents concerned about wildfires. If we had multiple house fires and a brush fire going on at the same time, if it was just here and we could bring water in from other towns, we might be okay. We are set up with a 10-alarm running card through Essex County, so we have tankers already ready to come here if we need it. And that's automatic with regional. So if we go to a certain address, we can just say we need a tank truck task force. That will come automatically. It's already predefined. When we went to Middleton, we were part of the forest fire task force. So that was a predefined response. So that would what happen if we had something like that happen.
Aside from the brush fires, is there any particular area like in the downtown or area that you consider high risk? And the reason I'm asking the questions is now we've passed, our response to the 3A zoning, and we might see more multifamily structures and they are different, right, than the single.
Yeah, so I mean, we look at, urban interface, and you look at, Powder House Hill, for instance. When you look at it, square footage or acreage wise, it's not that big, but it probably has as much of an impact, if you will, as the woods that I was just talking
Right,
about.
right.
Because it
In the
interacts
center
with
of
all
town,
those
right.
So basically, all it comes down to pre-planning. And then, reaching out to residents, if we have another dry spell, what they can do to prevent it, cleaning out the leaves, not just making the leaf pile be, over the rock wall, things like that, then, cut down on the amount of material that's available.
Great job. Thank you for all your hard work. Getting out in front, making that deal on that engine, that's huge, because get out in front of EPA changes and all that, it's gonna save us a lot of money, so that's great. One in the packet here, I had a question, the incident heat map,
Yeah.
what am I looking at there?
So basically, that's for that last 30 day, I think you're probably looking at December, because I didn't get my stuff to you till this morning, there's other things going on. That incident heat map is the last 30 days of where our incidents are occurring. So that's something I look at on the fire side. If we had, for instance, a flu outbreak, I can look at a medical side and see if there's one area of town that's more affected by flu outbreaks based upon what patients are complaining of during ambulance transport. So we can use that, we can kind of move that map to see, maybe wildfires where, where the, incidents are happening, and
Great,
adjust our resources appropriately.
great.
All right, in follow-up to that, so heat map, that's just not that, that's all of your activity.
For the last 30 days. Yeah.
Of medical and
Yes.
fire, which is
Yeah.
heat, and I wasn't sure when you said
Yes.
heat,
Right, that's-
Yeah.
wasn't drawn.
We can, if you wanted to know medicals versus fire, we can, basically aggregate that out, if you will.
No, I don't know, in the last month I may.
Same.
That's another story. So, so I'm glad to hear that the Linfield fire engine, we're just not warehousing that. I knew that we were had that because they got no place to put it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mutual thing, we've done an oil change,
That's
we've been a good borrower of it, which they appreciate.
And if you don't use it, you lose it sort of things. You want to keep it active, so stuff keeps on moving, so that's good. I've got a question about Community Connect, and how long has that been live now?
I think that one was November.
Okay, a couple months or so.
Fairly, the burning permits was the first thing to really thrust the residents into using the system. And Tiffany had put out a couple things in the tide, and we were slowly starting to
Okay.
kind of push it forward. We're trying to be careful in our dissemination of information, because reverse 911 is the town giving information to the public. Community Connect is the public giving information to us. So, if you had a resident or, somebody in your house that, broke a leg and they were immobile, you go into your Community Connect, update that updates in our trucks live. So if we get dispatched to your address, we see it, and the person heals and they're better, you can take it out and it's instantaneous. So people can provide as much information as they want. Most of the time, it's where my gas shut off is, water shut off. We have a few people that have disabled or, handicapped individuals living at their house, and they tell us where their bedrooms are, because we'd have to go in. It saves us time to locate them.
No, I mean, I signed up a few days ago, just hunting around and seeing, and I understand you drive people there because anytime you want some sort of a permit or something, feeds you into there. Okay, while you're here, fill out a few of these questions.
Yeah.
Some of those might be hard. I'm looking at them. People
Yeah.
don't know.
Some people don't put anything.
Where's my gas? I don't know where my water shut off.
Yeah.
I understand that. So, and you've got how many to date, would you say? I mean, your goal is 2,000.
Yeah, we probably up in the 90.
Okay, you're
93.
pushing 100
Yeah.
or so in a couple of months.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll have to keep track of that and say, okay, how can we be more proactive to get more folks
Yep.
signed up? So that's good. I saw it as good questionnaire, and appreciate everything that's been going on. You've been very diligent, responsive to the community here, and the overtime, yeah, it's down about 50% from what it was.
Mhm.
Kind of tracking That good?
Yeah.
So.
No, it's well, and it gives us the ability to, that we can do some more, we can do on-duty training and we can bring a few people in from time to time to make training consistent, which is important. Because if I give 4 groups a training outline, it's gonna be completed, but there's gonna be some irregularities in some of the
Yes.
outcomes. So having, the training coordinator come in from time to time to run those trainings, makes them that much better. Like, we have the ability to do that.
Well, thanks for everything you do.
Just, we're thinking of fire hazard areas. The area around the Loading Place Road, heavily wooded in the area. No water.
So we have a couple different options. There are a couple ponds that we can draft from, depending, again, if we're in a drought situation or if there's.
Or it's iced over.
Yeah, exactly. Or what we do is we come in down Forest Street, grab the last hydrant. And again, we can either do a tanker shuttle. So for instance, Essex's tanker holds 3,500 gallons of water. Middleton has one, Newbury has one. So there's a few of them. There is a response delay. That's why one of the things that regional's tasked with is based upon calls they're receiving. They don't have to wait to ask to do certain things. Certain things are just automatic to reduce the reaction time.
Okay, so would that area be highlighted in some way?
So on our maps, if I put an address in, it'll say non-hydrated area. It might even say limited access where, some people put pillars up and our fire trucks can't fit in there, so we have to adjust our response capability. So whole bunch of things come into play, but yes, we have all that, outlined in our software, and we also have that on paper too. That way it fails. And I try to update the paper quarterly in the binder, so we have something to refer back to.
Something that somebody asked, me is when you go for a medical call.
Yep.
You tend to roll a lot of equipment.
We roll 2 pieces to a medical call. Typically, depending on staff. So if we have a 3-person crew, you'll have 2 people in the ambulance and you'll have the officer on duty in the car.
Okay,
If we have a 4-person crew, you'll have 2 in the ambulance and 2 in the fire truck. The reason we do that, we send the people because most of the time, when we come across well-nourished individuals and only on the 2nd and 3rd floor that we need to carry down, so we need extra muscles. And then also the amount of calls that we do, the simultaneous calls, having 2 pieces of apparatus allow us to peel off and go to a second call at the same time. And on average, we're doing that about 18 times a month. We have a simultaneous. It's insane. Because we'll go, we can go 20 hours without a call and we'll do 3 in 15 minutes. You're like, can we spread this out a little bit? But
maybe you could do that through a reverse 911.
yeah. So that's the
Please
reason.
schedule your emergencies.
Yeah, so that's the reason that you see those apparatus responding, is
Okay.
because of extra,
Okay, so if a truck shows up.
Yeah.
It's not because the car wasn't available. It's
because there's 2 people, and then if they got a fire call,
Yeah.
they can go.
It's a concern for people like me who have long windy driveways and, are we going to get the truck backed into one of my pillars?
Yeah. So I do it 2 different ways. One is a lot of times you see the trucks park on the street and the extra guys will walk in. To me, every call we go on is an opportunity to train.
Okay.
So when they pull into the driveway, yes, they're there maybe because, you burnt chicken or you're cooking, but they're also looking, if this house is on fire.
It's usually bacon.
Where would we park? Where would we want to put the ladder truck? So every time we go on a response, yes, it's a response, but it's also a training activity because it gives us the ability to get into these areas that, we can't just pull on people's driveways.
Okay, thank you.
And brings up a point here, the number of simultaneous calls or overlapping calls.
Yeah.
That trend has been going up.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm 2 years ago, it was once a week.
Yeah.
It was about 4 or 5. Now it's more like 10, 12, 14. And I noticed that the number of total calls that you have hasn't changed, that it's like 1,100, 1,200 a year. But the overlaps
Yeah.
have doubled, tripled.
Yeah.
Got
Maybe that's
a
better.
comment?
Unless somebody sees a fire truck go by and they're like, hey, maybe I should call. I don't know.
Maybe some of it's just better record keeping that.
I mean, we, you know, just all the systems now are integrated, you know, that come down from regional, so it could be record keeping, you know, some, before, sometimes we were just, you know, doing our best guess at the time, but now it's, you know.
Curious.
Yeah. It is interesting to see the trends month to month and, you know, Memorial Day to Labor Days, the weekends are our busiest time, which are, probably, you know, some of the things you can take an educated guess.
Good.
Great. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Yep.
Okay, town administrator.
Okay. Well, last quarter, highlights included those that we had a special town meeting. And we're ready for that and executing it. It was the largest town meeting the town has seen. Overall, I think from the logistical point of view, went quite well. Obviously, we had a task force leading up to that, worked very hard, and get information out. So again, just from a logistic point of view, communications point of view, I think that was a good case study for us. Should serve us well going forward. Kind of, when we have similar issues, how do we want to try to address it? I think there's some good lessons there. Budget work has been priority, putting the preliminary budget together and presenting that to both you and the finance committee. And obviously that'll keep going now, between now and end of March, when we finalize it and get ready for the annual town meeting. We've brought on board the two consultants, one for the operations audit. Hope to see that draft report maybe the end of this week, if not into next. So I'll get that out to you as soon as we have it, for your comments. And also we've brought on board the recruiting firm, and that process is well underway. We advertise on the street, and you'll be interviewing the screening committee next week. So that's going well. The Mason building, getting close to a signed PNS on that. A few more I's to dot, but we're very close. So that's getting to where it should be.
So does that come before us, the PNS?
Well, yeah, just waiting for their final comments, and then we'll get that to you. And dealing with the Central Street Culvert project, making sure that we're getting all this signatures from the landowners. Continues to occupy some time. Hopefully bring that to a successful next step very soon. So a lot of those will continue on in this quarter now. Obviously, budget and getting ready for the annual town meeting, certainly front and center. And then those two projects as well, the audit and the search. The priorities as we go forward. Staffing wise, we do have a new conservation agent starting up in the middle of February 11th. She'll come on board. This is a shared agent between us and Hamilton. We have 3 days a week in Hamilton. We'll have 2 days. So a couple of bits and starts there, but hopefully this will be a solid hire, and someone will stay on with us. Similarly, we were struggling to bring on board a custodian, and get a new person started today. So hopefully that will be a lasting relationship as well.
Question. So what are the responsibilities of the custodian regarding like the scope of that person's responsibilities?
So general custodial work in
This
this
building,
building, library, and Seaside One.
do they oversee contracts or perform the function themselves?
They perform the functions themselves. And they also do some light building repair and maintenance work.
I was
And
wondering why, you know, have we ever looked at having a service?
we did have a service previous.
Okay, that was
Um,
not successful.
It was not very satisfactory. It varied. one arrangement was pretty good because of the people that they had. But it was always a struggle to get as much work as we wanted. And then there's a price point where it became more expensive to keep going with them rather than bringing it in-house. But we've done both. And ideally, the person can do some facility planning and maintenance,
That's what I was wondering.
overseeing elevator inspections,
Okay, so it's more than traditional.
annual boiler maintenance, making sure that that gets done, those sorts of building requirements.
Okay, any other gaps in personnel, or is that the custodian is the only one right now?
So that person just started today.
Oh, just, okay, it's no longer a gap.
Sounds more like a facilities maintenance.
So, no, right now,
Good.
we are fully staffed. As of today, not quite, by when the agent comes on, we still have that to bring on board. And otherwise we are.
Looking to town meeting and electronic voting, are we looking pretty good there?
Yes, I think we are.
Yeah.
We did have that last vote snap
Yeah.
through.
When we needed it the most.
Yeah, it was the
Seems
most
like
critical
at this
piece,
point.
but we know what happened there and correct going forward.
There has been a request for specific voting computers.
Yes.
Using your computer
As a, right,
was a little scary
right. So yes, we'll make sure we have dedicated.
before the tariffs show up.
Okay, yes. Good point. But
Because
yes,
we don't, it would be good to be able to do some testing
yes,
well before April.
yeah, well, those are
And
pretty simple machines to.
there are lots of really cheap, really fast. So, but it would be
Yes.
nice to get.
Yep.
So we have some things just dedicated for that purpose. Don't worry that I'm going to remember Greg's password.
Didn't hear you say that, okay. How's the operational audit been received by the staff?
Yeah, good conversations. I think people are anxious to see what he comes back with.
Typically, an organization that is not frequently audited gets nervous when something
Well,
like this.
I don't think there's a lot of nervousness for the most part. A couple exceptions, but for the most part, I would say people are looking forward to it. And,
Curious.
yeah, I think, like I said, the people enjoyed the conversations with Bill and the IT guy, I didn't know. Good conversations, I think, took place.
Well, I always kind of look at your life quarter by quarter based upon, certainly in part at least, what the articles are that you write in the paper, because
Yes.
that's the hot buttons
Yes.
of your life. And I'm looking here the last quarter, 3 on zoning, that's no surprise.
Right, yeah.
A couple on the DPW, on stormwater. I thought stormwater got a little bit too much play,
No, it
wasn't
didn't.
that exciting an issue. But, and then capital budgeting, a couple, and then operations was the other. So it all kind of makes sense to me, and you managed to keep all the balls in the air.
Yeah,
So,
there's always plenty of balls in the air. It's always surprising.
Yeah.
But there are.
Good.
Yeah, this week's article will be on aggregation, which
I saw that just before I went out the
I'll
door.
talk a little bit about that during my report later.
Thank you again for everything.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do.
We should, thank you.
That's quarterly reports. I understand that we are not talking about. Just,
Right, the owner had requested to postpone that. He would like to be here for that discussion. We had some medical issues come up.
just as a, for your information, the owners are good friends of mine, and then that comes up, I will hand over the gavel to John and get out of the room. Okay. The Parks and Recreation Committee's naming policy.
So I think, oh, Cheryl, there you go.
I am here.
Oh, there you go,
Thank
okay.
you. I am here, however, my camera is not coming on, so I guess you just get my voice tonight.
That's fine, that's fine.
So I'm not sure who saw the email, but we probably a year ago or a little over a year ago, after the Pine Street field was finished, we got probably 4 or 5 different people asking about having the field named for somebody. Not all the same person, but different somebodies anyways. And we were tasked by you guys to come up with a policy. So I called around and talked to the committee and called around to some other towns, and most of them it is a select board situation, but a lot of them do have a stop at Parks and Rec first when it does involve an athletic field or any recreation areas, really. So I came up with the committee and I came up with the policy that I sent, as well as the kind of the application.
So in your packet was the proposed policy. Basically, it starts off with going to Park and Rec, and we'll review proposals, and then they would review and vet and make a recommendation to you. It'll be up to you as a board to make that final decision.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, so it does still obviously leave the final okay in the hands of the select board. But it's almost like the Park and Rec committee would vet it before it got there.
So I have a couple of questions. Cheryl, this is Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Was there any discussion around not so much changing the name of a field, but just kind of having a subtitle like, you know, the Pine Street Field in honor of so-and-so? Or is the intent that the actual name of the field has to change?
I guess that would be more kind of case by case. We do say that like maybe an amenity within a field, like coach field at the Brook Street Playground, or, you know, it could be like, I don't know, like Palazola Field at Sweeney Park, you know, so
Yeah, I
that
guess
is always a possibility.
the reason I would ask the committee to think about it, and this doesn't really necessarily apply to the Pine Street Field because it's just a practice field, right? But I clearly remember my days of being the mommy cab, shuffling my kids to various sporting events in different towns. And gosh darn it, you would think it would be easier to find the fields. And when they were named after streets, oh my gosh, it was so much easier, you know? And it sounds like something silly, but when you are a busy parent or, you know, a grandparent who wants to visit their kids' play, and the coaches don't tell you where the game is until the last minute, not that that ever happens, but it's nice when the field is named after something geographical that you can at least Google and get into the right part of town. So that's kind of my bias. So that was the reason for my question. The other thing is I've noticed since I moved here, people seem to call it the Brook Street Field, even though it's Coach Field. I don't know. I hear a lot of people refer to it as Brook Street.
Oh, yeah.
It was over there.
Yeah, so I know.
I agree, but I also think that is a little unique in that it's Coach Field. So
Yes, yeah.
people get a little confused.
So,
But
yeah,
I
so-
do hear it referred to as either or.
So I personally have a bias towards geographic references, but an honorary thing, you know, I would certainly support. The other question I had was the way the policy is drafted, it looks like whoever got to submit an application first would, the early bird gets the worm, and I was wondering if we should have a clause that says, if someone suggests it be named after a person, that we, solicit ideas from other people. I would hate to have it be just, we look at an application just because someone had an idea and 5 other people didn't. And then the field gets named and then people come out of the woodworks. Well, if I had known you were gonna name the field after somebody, we would have submitted an application, so just, I didn't see that as part of the process, so I would ask, that maybe we think about that. So those are kind of my, two pieces of feedback.
Yep, thank you. And there is a 6-month waiting period, which may take care of that, but also may not. So
Yeah, it
thank
didn't
you. That's something to
specifically say
consider.
that we would announce, someone has requested the field be named, and if anybody else would like to submit an application, please do so within this time
Yeah,
frame.
that's a
That kind
good,
of
that's a
thing.
good
I
clarification.
just feel like we could get into a whole bunch of trouble.
No, we need
Yeah.
consensus.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I
exactly.
agree with that. Right now, we don't have any policy, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know how these other fields got named, Sweeney and Highland. I guess they were important people at one point in time, but they just kind of got names put up there somehow.
Joe Island was a football.
He was a coach or something.
Coach Field was too.
Right.
And Sweeney, the DPW.
Is that right?
I did some looking up
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
felt if these parks are named after somebody, I ought to know who they were named after. I was surprised that Sweeney was named after, I believe, a DPW director, yet the news article I saw talked about this other gentleman who had done all this volunteer work to get the park in great shape, and I'm wondering why the park wasn't named after him. So
Maybe.
and I don't know, so
Feels
it's,
like way back before.
Yeah.
I know my time. I don't
Yeah.
know
It's way
about
back.
Ian's,
So-
but-
Well, just,
It may be that the guy who did all the work said, name it after the DPW director,
maybe,
but
maybe.
that's.
the only observation I really have, Cheryl, is that I think that this is kind of focused on, we're gonna name these parks after somebody. But kind of to Kathy's point a little bit, it could be named after some sort of historical event that happened there. I mean, what happened if
Oh, it's the burned up park.
Yeah.
somebody may have a sense of humor? Or, if there was a park or somehow that got built on Powder House Hill, maybe it's Powder House Hill Park.
What's the policy around naming it, period,
Yeah.
right? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, in other words, I wouldn't just say we're addressing it because people want to name people that might be candidates. It could be for any reason. So there might be a line in there that says naming suggestions, which could be anything and, including people, but it could be something else, an event or a location. I mean, if there's a park in Western Woods, maybe you want to call it the Western Woods Park.
Yeah,
I don't.
I like it.
So I think you should just address that so that people know, they got a blank sheet of paper here. They can
Don't worry.
suggest anything they want.
Okay. Okay,
So.
sounds
so I-
good.
I hear 2 suggestions. I think we're not under an immediate. So. Make the fact that there's something that's maybe named publicly available.
Yeah.
And make the naming more general
Yeah, more broad.
and if possible, give a hint where it is.
That would fall into that category, yes.
So make it easy for people to find.
So,
Um,
would Cheryl come back with some copy?
Yeah.
That's fine, and we're not under a time crunch. So
They are not.
So we would make a motion at this point,
so let's
Yeah,
schedule that.
once you get another draft. and
another
then-
draft, and
Yeah.
then we'd probably be prepared.
Yeah,
But thank you for all of that work. I know how hard it is to come up with procedures and I think it's very close.
Thank you, Joe.
It is.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll take it back to the drawing board and come back before you. Thank you.
Not from ground zero. You got a pretty good
No,
base.
no, just so we-
No problem. Thank you.
hey.
Okay.
You might, so discussion items.
Discussion items,
I'm just wondering if you might pick up hiking.
let's pick up our,
Take
Yeah,
that first, just because Cheryl could, and the chief is here, so.
Yes.
okay.
Sure, so, well, parking is a perennial topic in the town for sure. I think this past season, overall, I think, certainly from the chief's position, Cheryl's position and town clerk's position, things worked pretty well. We had the new parking sticks out on Beach Street. That certainly helped with enforcement, allowed the parking officers to focus on other areas, and that could sort of be automatically handled on Beach. The parking at Singing Beach, it was a busy summer, and the weather was good for many weekends. There were nine days when that parking lot was at capacity. Maybe a little higher than typical, maybe, I think Cheryl told me that 7 was perhaps a more typical number, but certainly within the range of normal for for a good weather summer. Obviously, if it rains every weekend, that has a big impact on the parking. There were concerns, as you know, that by having the resident stickers distributed to everybody and those being valid at Singing Beach, that might be bringing more cars to the parking lot. I don't think we can say definitively that was the case. There's some people still have that concern though.
I guess the question would be, when does it fill up earlier?
Yeah, did you hear that, Cheryl? I don't think that it necessarily. I mean,
So,
you've often told people to come before 10 if you want to get a parking space, and that seems to hold true still.
yeah, actually, of all the days that it filled, it never filled before 11 a.m. So most days when it did fill, it was by 11 a.m. But then some days just afternoon time. So 3 of the days were afternoon time, 2 of the days were by 1 o'clock, and then one day that was 2:15 or after. So like Greg said, whenever people ask, when does the parking lot fill? We always say, try to get there between 9 and 10 in the morning.
So there's that aspect. The distribution of the stickers has been through the registration of cars. So everyone is receiving a parking sticker that has their car registered in town. That has basically shifted the burden to Park and Rec than to sell the tags. So we haven't eliminated that sort of labor intensive piece. A little bit, people are pre-ordering a little bit of the tags, but we're still handling a lot. The stickers are being done by the vendor, so we've taken that burden off of town clerk's office. We've incurred some additional cost because of that, by having the vendor do it. Other parking issues, the voter placard holders who aren't residents, having people have the option of using the high school parking lot or the parking across from the tennis courts at the elementary school. That seemed to work out fine. I don't think we had any issues with that. So that seemed to work pretty well, as did allowing a maximum of 3 night over parking at Tux for mooring placard holders. Again, I don't think any issues arose with that.
Say that one neighbor has been happier.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. So as I say, overall, I think staff feels like we can continue with status quo for another season to continue to monitor. unless you feel there are changes that you have heard or want to talk about.
I have one. The adhesive on the stickers on the cars is immovable when it's cold out. Which means that I put the sticker in the glove compartment if I remember. And sometimes I lose it between January when I get it and late April when I can get the old one off. Since the stickers are good, last year's stickers are good for neighborhoods, I think until early spring or spring. Maybe we could mail them out when they can be used rather than in the middle of the winter.
When do the stickers come out? They're coming out in the next week or two?
February, right?
I don't remember. I know it's early.
Isn't it based on when the
Yeah, we just
assessors,
put the order in for the new, to have the new stickers printed, so they're not going out yet.
isn't it based
Um,
on when the assessors database for the cars gets?
Well, but we don't have to do it then.
Yeah.
We can,
I like Ian's suggestion. I'm
we
thinking,
can delay it,
Maybe
as far as I
we can
know.
special.
right?
We'll say as long as they're off by May 1st.
Or you could turn it to Boston.
Yeah, but then I have to run the car and then I gas myself in the garage. No, I can come out with my heat gun.
First world problems. I think.
So you can buy yourself a heat gun.
um,
Since,
there was something too with the beach passes, with the website last year. Cheryl, I don't remember what it was. I apologize. But I remember it was the first time I had to order the beach passes through Parks and Rec instead of through the town's online system. And for whatever reason, the website didn't work for me and I had to come in person. I can't remember why that was. But had to
So
set-
we did sell about over 1,800 online. Then we
Something
did
goes back,
probably
I
have
wasn't
about a,
I wasn't a regular, I didn't have an account.
yeah,
So I don't know, I'll try it again this year, but when I find out what it was just extraordinarily difficult for someone who didn't deal with Parks and Recs regularly. Maybe
Yeah.
get an account. I'll try and refresh my memory, Cheryl, and get back to you on that.
Yeah.
The other thing was, I was looking at, so this is for the chief, I was looking at the enforcement log. It's great detail log, a lot of good detail here, and I'm curious. It looks as though we don't enforce anything on School Street. And I didn't see any, maybe one on Pine Street. So out of curiosity, those are two major thoroughfares through town. And I'm just kind of trying to understand.
Regularly, I don't think we're enforcing it unless we get a complaint or the officers see something.
Okay.
So the parking enforcement people basically can do the high traffic disturbance like the features downtown.
So in order to get enforcement, like, Pine Street would have to call.
The section of Pine Street that was on the parking enforcement group, where it's resident parking lot up.
Yeah.
That was on the group.
I'm actually interested, we had a lot of people driving the wrong way and actually, how did you phrase it here, wrong way parking? Like they had to drive on the wrong side of the street.
Yeah.
Instead of doing a 3-point, yeah, that happens all the time. And so I'm curious as to what the enforcement is on, and even School Street is such a narrow street. Something to think about. And then my other question was related to the decision we made at the last select board meeting around the crosswalk in front of Seaside 1. Was my memory correct that it's supposed to be 20 feet away from the crosswalk, or was I mistaken about that? Okay, because I put a call in to the business line on Saturday. Someone moved it. Okay, they moved by a good 5 or 6 feet in front of, the barber shop. So I happen to be walking my dog, I'm crossing the street, and I'm like, okay, that cone looks like 20 feet, but this one over here looks like not. So I took out my little measuring thing on my app on my phone, and sure enough, it was only 14 feet roughly, so
check
somebody
this out.
moved it.
There is temporary signs there. But it's on the cone. The problem is, it needs to be painted, and it's just.
Right, so that's what I'm leading to, is that
Right,
the temporary solution is not working. I asked about painting the last time. And is there a prohibition against painting during the winter or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it will-
Temperature.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Right,
work.
yeah, so it's too cold right now, that's the issue. Okay, so
So
when does,
the plan is to be painted, but it.
Okay.
Yeah.
so when does it get
Well,
warm
so-
enough?
Is there a plan to maybe think about
Eliminate
getting
that.
rid of it or moving it?
Oh, yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
to.
But we
Yeah.
can't do it until we can paint over. Again, it's an issue of
Right.
the temperature.
I mean,
So-
if there's a warm spell, if there's a warm week in February, it's possible.
So I think part of it is, the crosswalk itself, but the painting of the lines, not just the beginning of it, but painting marked out parking
So the
spaces.
spaces themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that was a recommendation at least a year and a half, if not 2 years ago. And it's been warm since the recommendation came to us. So I'm just trying to understand if there's a barrier or something we didn't decide, or what does it take to get lines painted in the street for the parking?
So maybe a communication issue. I think DPW interpreted that as the discussion was only on Beach Street,
Beach Street. Really? No,
not on Central.
I mean, Central is a mess. And it's not getting any better with I think it was one of our,
But do we really want to get into painting lines before we do this culvert project? Because that's all gonna change.
I
Depend-
think that to that point, I don't know how much it costs to paint lines, but right now, because there's no cars on Central Street, you just pull up and stop. And then all of a sudden, what's gonna happen is then something happens and it's a haphazard kind of thing. So to that point, I understand, but I don't know how much it costs.
Yeah, it's,
it's a can of paint. I'll do
It's-
it.
it's ridiculous. I mean, we're not using the fancy,
No, just.
No.
glow in the dark paint, the thermoplastic paint. This is just white paint that we can put down.
I just,
That'll be fine.
I just want us to have an agreement or say we're not gonna do it, but my recollection is there was a recommendation. I thought we all thought it was a good idea. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I still think it's a good idea to paint parking spaces. And even if it's something that's only for this summer, I mean,
I
because
would
the
spend a lot.
culvert, that's not starting till the fall, right?
Mhm.
So summer's our busiest time and I think
Yeah,
it
I mean,
would
if
help.
if it's not a lot of money, go paint lines. I don't have a problem. I just don't wanna.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
but
want to waste
that
money.
depends How much the culvert's gonna affect that into Central Street. So,
Well, we
Okay,
don't
I
really
think,
know
I
that
think
yet.
I hear a fairly clear
paint lines,
consensus
things like-
that
Paint the lines.
painting lines
Get rid
on
of this.
the south, on Central Street from, the culvert, basically, and the crosswalk to
To
the
School Street.
corner of School Street
both sides.
on both sides.
Both sides. And then, I mean, the temporary solution we've tried to put in place for safety reasons. It is in front of the police station, so I don't know if we can, have the officers on duty just move it back or somebody moves it. I don't know who moved
Yeah, I
it.
don't think we have to out there and actually measure it, but.
Yeah.
I think maybe we could put a sign. maybe.
I just
Could-
thought it
could
was
we
pretty
put-
bold. Someone
Could
moved
we
it.
put something a little more substantial, like the Jersey barrier?
Yeah, I'd have to talk to Chuck and see.
It's the plowing issue right
Yeah.
It's a
now.
plowing
Okay.
issue,
Speaking
yeah.
of plowing.
Yeah.
How did the sticks make out this past, up in New Sticks?
Need more stuff.
Well, you're gonna put sticks down kind of in that downtown area anyway, and then you,
No, no, no.
yeah.
In areas where parking is not allowed.
I don't know, there were suggestions, I think it was on, kind of on Central.
Well,
Yes.
some of them where parking was not allowed. in the spots, I think you guys have already approved last year. Because we did phase one sort of with Beach Street, and then we're gonna do phase two in other areas. But I think discussion would be to expand it up from Summer Street, from Summer, Beach and Summer, to the top of Summer Street, at sea or electric.
Yeah.
Hill.
Okay. I've got a question on the data here. What's MTE?
Those,
You've got the list on the violation codes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 20, and then MTE, $9,400. And I'm not sure what that
Is
means.
that, that's not it.
yeah, I saw that too.
It's a-
It was on the violation log.
Violation
report.
list.
There's a list of what the codes mean. Code number one, code number two is, code number one is overtime parking. Code number two is not parking within marked space. And then there's a line, it says MTE. There's 188 of them.
That might be.
That's
All right, so
sticks.
that,
Okay.
I put that note down here, so I thought that probably was the situation.
Oh, that's-
so-
That's a fair number.
When you look at the 9,400, is that net to us or is, well, it's not, pardon me?
That's to us.
Okay, so in other words, the fine, what do they get, 50%? So in other words, the fine was like 18,000. And we're getting 9,400. Okay,
What about turnover too, right?
all right.
Great.
That's
That's the intent of it, right? Not really the violation and the revenue.
One part from anyone, from downtown businesses, that have they chimed in, at the chamber chimed in at all, or?
I haven't heard anything at the downtown.
Okay, so that number then is folded into the Beach Street number, which is the biggest number by street. It's 232 there. The next largest one is half that. So
That's the stick.
that's the sticks is driving that number. Okay,
That's good.
okay. So our parking the revenue that we're getting there, and I think the budget for this coming year is what, 35,000 projected?
Yeah, for
For the
the,
parking.
for the officers.
Oh, no, I'm talking about revenue, on the revenue
From
side.
tickets.
Revenue side.
It has been as high as, I don't know, 2 years ago, it was like 50,
Yeah, but that's
but it's been sliding down.
sliding down because we're not going later in the season like we have in the past.
Was that right?
So that's the big,
Okay.
Sorry.
The-
Put that people.
So normally we run parking enforcement through nothing, but we haven't done that last year.
The sticks were running then, but people were not.
I just have one more thing on parking. We had discussed at a prior meeting, how some of the businesses along Central were feeling about the parking enforcement. There was an issue, something with the barber shop or that section, I don't recall.
It was, Kevin Patey from the barber shop was concerned about the 1 day a year event.
One day a year events, okay,
Okay.
so I think we
At
talked.
which point we talked about possibly sign that says no event parked in front of, for that 1
Right,
day.
okay,
The temporary sign they could put up for Bluebird and, for, the barber shop. Just, but it would be a temporary sign, it goes up and it comes down,
okay. So
even if it's
that,
on a cone.
since you brought that up, I asked the hair salon across the street. Where I go, and they have a different issue. It wasn't the 1 day events that they have a problem. It's all the weekends during the summer. Because the parking limit is 2 hours and there are some services that they provide that are longer than 2 hours. So I was wondering if, I don't know if it's Christine or someone reach out to the salon to see if a placard, a 3-hour placard, you give voting placards to people. Is there a way to give that business a 3-hour placard? Or do you have any other ideas that would permit them to allow a customer who has a valid need to park 3 hours to do that? I don't know. It's a different service than a barber shop, and so the women, we're shaking our heads. There's some things you do that you're in there for longer than 2 hours, okay? And I understand the gentleman may not have encountered that, but we're all shaking our heads here, okay? I'm not a carrot and a color, I'm sorry, you're in there for a good 3.5, okay, so. And so,
10 minutes.
yeah.
All you have to
It
do
is
is
sometimes a man's
comb your hair
world, and
with
then when it comes to hair care, that can be the case, so. I just would ask, I think that's the only other business that I can think of that may have encountered that situation.
There was a period of time when the
I don't know.
dry clean was there, right? So the precedent has been set to try to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do something for the barber shop across the street, you ought to at least talk to the hair salon, which has a concern. They didn't mention they didn't say they had any concern about the one-day events. It was the regular customers who have to come in for more than 2 hours when we're enforcing 2 hours. It's a problem.
I just have a question. I'm doing the math here on this MTE, 188 tickets, $9,400. It's about $50, isn't it, parking ticket $50? We're not getting 9,400, we're getting half that. Because 94, this comes out to about 50. If you divide 9,400 by 188. So I think, yeah. So the total is 36,800 for all of the tickets, but you would have to back out 40, well, half of 9,400, so.
Well, the upside though is, but
But-
the intent was to
To turn it
turn those
over.
spots.
Right.
Yes,
over.
understood.
So the reality here is that the less money we collect, the better the system is working.
Yeah.
Okay, so That's the intent. It's not
There's
supposed
a
to
sweet
be a
spot in
profit.
there. We don't know what it is.
It's not supposed to
but
be a profit. center.
It's only one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, the data good. The data are interesting.
So if we do decide to expand up Summer Street, then that whole area will have to be painted too.
Yes.
As long as we put up.
You gotta
Take out the cans of
You
paint.
gotta buy a case of paint.
We'll keep the sticks off Essential. Please.
We did hear a complaint from the library, from someone who was using the library, that the,
Time.
Yeah.
Too little.
if there's an event at the library, it can go over to.
Oh, okay,
By the
that's
time.
right.
Church Street.
So again, could there be some sort of a placard? You could hand it out, and it's returned. So
It's tough. Most of those people have little kids. Yeah, I gotta leave my kid here. I gotta put them on my car. This is,
Or they're older and walking in and out and back and forth, but,
There's always gonna be something. I remember, the veterans coffees on Saturday mornings. They were packed, for, too long, and all this, so. I mean, there's always gonna be something, and we just have to try to adjust, or,
I mean, is there a way they can contact you guys and just say, hey, we're having an
The
event?
Legion does.
Yeah,
Or if there's a wedding at the church contacts us.
yeah, so I mean, there's.
Mhm.
so it's a communication thing.
But the, changing thing, for the hair salon, the only I can think of is maybe 3 hours,
Well,
you know?
yeah, I mean,
And you open the door to other businesses.
that's what I'm saying. The hair salon, they're not looking, I mean, they weren't looking for a special space just for them, because anybody can park there. It's just that there are legitimate reasons. Again, legitimate reasons for the services they offer to be longer than 2 hours. So that's why I didn't know if the business could hold a placard and give it to the customer, but someone might have a better idea. And they return it to the business when they're, before they leave or something. I don't know.
or is one side 3 hour and one side 2 hour? I don't know.
I'm not,
Why don't we put, I don't know, behind town hall? An area behind town hall, that's,
well, you have 3 hour at Mascanoma, right? Do you have 3 hour at Mascanoma?
so take the, instead of 2 hour park behind town hall, do 3 hour park behind town hall. And they can hope that they
There's a
get,
spot for them.
A, there's a spot, and B, they, get it right when she leaves, so he leaves. And they can pick up the extra 20 minutes to drive here too. There's
It's tough. I mean, the people that are getting here, they can be parking anywhere.
Open the door
Right.
for all kinds of other.
Yeah, you can't just say in
That's
front
what
of
I'm saying,
it.
it's not, I wasn't
place,
thinking of
they could be
something
parked
right in
anywhere.
front of the.
It's very hard. Very hard. For now, it'll be revisited.
Going back to the spot.
Contract with Hoopers.
So-
As soon as
The
the
empty,
weather.
Yeah.
Great.
Excel used to be that empty parking lot next to the fire station.
Temporary.
Hey, can we,
To make sure that the calms down.
Yeah, talk to
There's no one
Jack.
else knows. I don't think there's any movement. on that space.
I understand that you want something that you can plow through, but.
Yeah.
I think you can take up the only. Maybe you can take up the crosswalk. I mean, that's not as weather dependent. Grind it out.
Probably the best. Must get rid of it.
And I think that's the only solution at this
I'll
point.
have to let him comment, but the last time I talked to him about removing that wasn't in favor. of this.
Just wait till the culvert.
Mhm.
Then we can. Where we talked about putting crosswalk back by those.
Yes, that's the long-term ideal.
I think.
This would be the second temporary. I mean, the first temporary solution isn't working. So now we got to be a little creative.
I mean,
Second
you
choice.
get, like, you get rid of it now, you're at least giving these guys parking for the summer.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Give them a little extra parking for the summer to help them out, and then
Yeah.
whatever after that.
I don't disagree. I think that's the most reasonable common sense approach to this particular.
Okay. So get rid of the as soon as convenient.
As soon as the weather permits.
Get
Yeah,
rid of.
Get rid of that
the
crosswalk and paint
altogether.
and paint in spaces.
Well, spaces, I think.
Paint
Because
the
that-
spaces. You
Yeah.
made a
The
really
spaces.
good argument that people, even people who are trying to be efficient.
Well, I mean, I just pulled in just now, which I pulled up and said, "Man, I gotta pull over here because I don't want to screw up because I'm gonna leave one of those
A
cars
lot of people
behind
don't
and I
care
don't
if they
want
screw up the
to mess
parking.
up the parking."
So I really feel strongly. if
Be
we
aware of how I can.
I appreciate your sensitivity to that.
Well, hey, you know,
That drives me a
sometimes
little
I look at a
nuts
spot
too.
and I'll say, no, if it's only.
He's taking
parked
two
right,
spots, you know.
No,
I
you pay excise tax for two.
Downtown improvement project last time, there was questions about painting spots and losing parking altogether. The minimum standard is 20 feet.
Oh, so the spaces are really big.
Yeah.
It's,
You can go
You're
to
losing
18.
them anyway. You're
You
losing,
can go to 18. Rather than 20.
you can go to 18.
not everybody's driving a Suburban.
No, in this town.
Yeah.
Perhaps the downtown improvement people. I think we want a solution in the short term that. And the downtown improvement people can argue about how best to do it after the culvert.
Mhm.
job is done.
Yeah, I don't recall them having an objection to painting lines.
Okay.
I just don't.
Okay,
So we're checking with them.
Then we'll just have to do it.
Okay. Okay. All right,
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
enough of that.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Joe, are we done?
All set, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, did we wake you?
We haven't talked about the screening committee,
Um,
All right.
selecting members thereof.
Greg's memo outlined, I think. Questions based on the feedback we had given him, that's what I interpreted. Greg, is that correct?
Right.
Um. I like the questions. I still think I'd like to see the applicants give us answers to as many of those questions as they want in writing 4 days before we go. Before we do. If they do that, I'm less worried about. Then we will have answers that were fresh from each one.
Right.
Yep.
And we can go into the questions. Even though we have everybody there together.
And that gives them time to think,
Yeah.
they're not on the
Well,
spot, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well, they better be thinking. They should be thinking.
I hope they think.
I mean, I look at the questions, you don't necessarily have to put 3 and 4 in advance because they're very individual, they're personal questions. They aren't policy questions. And what one person's response is in number 3 is not going to be the same as another because
Influence.
they've got a different life.
Right.
Well, right, but that's, so I specifically wanted number 3 to be one of the criteria we looked at though, because.
In advance.
Well, it
Maybe,
doesn't have to be in advance, but just one of the criteria that we looked at, because hiring leaders is different than hiring individual contributors,
Yeah.
and some people may never have hired anybody, and we should understand that, I think.
yes.
I think if you get them all done ahead of time, it's gonna make things go a lot faster.
I agree.
Yeah, then you can just look for expanding it. I'm just wondering, you throw all of these at them. I don't want to read 3,000 words per person. Maybe I have some sort of a limit on the response because what do we got? 10 people?
You're saying what, like 4 days? So what you said?
I said 4 days
Yeah,
because.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
that gives us enough time.
well, we can throw it all at them.
I would put all that up, because you know what? The way they answer the questions also tells you something about the individual,
Yes,
right?
the more stuff you got, but
Right, and so I think it tells us whether or not they can be brief, and that's
And clear.
point.
and clear, right? So it's not just the answer, it's how they write it that give you clues.
Fine. Fire them all out, but I would like to have some sort of a cap on total words or
I
something.
don't disagree, would be nice. But, you know, you don't have to read them all.
Or maybe just be qualitative, try and be concise and to the
Concise, just
point.
ask them to
Ask
be
for the
concise.
Cliff Notes.
Yes.
/ Reader's
Ask
Digest
them to
version.
be concise.
That's the way to go. What is this? This thing is next. So to fire this out, they've got to send it to us by Monday.
By Monday.
What's today? Tuesday. That's not time.
Talk a week Thursday for the 30th.
Yeah.
right?
And the letters of interest or that you received, how lengthy were they?
They vary.
Varies.
varied.
Yeah,
Some-
some are full letters, some are. just
An email that
application.
says
Yeah.
they were
yeah,
interested.
when-
But maybe you could send the questions to the individuals and say, if you did not cover, if you already covered, you know, some of these questions in your letter of intent, you know, just reference that, but we are looking for the rest of these to be added. That way they don't have to rewrite what they already wrote in their
But that's so
original
easy.
letter. You know, but I don't think everybody would have necessarily answered all of these questions. They're good questions and
And a couple of these questions are, you know, half a dozen words. Be around on Tuesdays?
exactly, yes or no. Number 6 is a yes or no question.
Correct.
Right.
Number 7, on the other hand, could be about a textbook.
Yes.
So any other questions, or you're happy with the 8?
Wouldn't add any.
No.
I guess the question would be, is there any of these that you would
Consolidate or delete?
remove from the initial, the request to get something in writing ahead of time and just ask them in person, or are you comfortable just sending them all out?
I would suggest leaving off 7 and 8.
We can just ask them, yeah. Yeah. Number 5, is really not a question, it's more of a
Statement.
statement that we will make to them, so maybe we could eliminate that.
I would agree. What do you think they're gonna say?
Right,
Right,
exactly. No, I'm not comfortable with that.
Sign it.
Wow.
Okay.
Going on Facebook.
Yeah, right. And what about 7 and 8? Did you?
We could put in the note that we plan on having a discussion with you about these. You don't need to, maybe we say you don't need to answer them in advance in writing, but be prepared to discuss
Yeah, I think
them
we
with
just have
us.
to, yeah, I think it's basically.
Here's what we want to
Understand
know.
that there's a difference, and that's what we're looking for you to identify.
Yeah, when you come in and talk to us here, we'd like to hear your thoughts on these things, and but they don't have to send us 5 paragraphs beforehand.
Yeah.
We do it that way.
So we'll send them, ask them for 1 through 4.
6.
If we take,
Yeah, we.
We're
I would
eliminating
let-
5, we're taking 5.
eliminating 5.
Eliminate 5, but I would leave 6, because if for some reason the person is not available, then.
They may
they'll
not
Self-select
know.
out,
They may not know that
Right.
until they get.
right, so I
They
think
don't
it's
know.
worth sending 6.
Okay.
Okay, so leave that.
And then just let them just make mention of 7 and 8, that we'd like to have a discussion with them about this one. We meet first.
Is this all going to be, so to get to this discussion, which is a week from Thursday, 1 shot, 10 people? Or 2 shots, 5 people?
How much time do you think each candidate?
That's the question.
So let me ask a
15 minutes.
question. Do these interviews, they have to be public meetings, you said?
So why don't we take the 5 past select board members first? And then, so we don't have 10 people sitting,
So 10's a lot.
10's a lot, so 2 groups of 5. And should we consider the past select board members whom we don't select to be candidates for the citizen positions?
Scratch my head.
Good
on it.
questions, they are citizens.
They are.
Most of them.
I don't think,
I would say it best be, unless they moved out of town. So you could end up with 4 or 5
you're gonna end up with 4 former select board
former
members.
select board members.
Possible.
I guess
Greg
I,
is kind of smirched, Lee's kind of not happy. with
Yeah,
it.
but that's a little different than what you,
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's different than what we advertised.
but I always think it's good to have sort of a citizen at large.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are.
That-
these
that's
were
not-
advertised as
It
citizens.
hasn't been involved.
involved. I don't know, all these
They're gonna
people are
bring a
involved
different
somehow, but they are not
That's
necessarily
the
select,
perspective we're looking.
but they're involved.
Well, so if someone is a recruiter and has a lot of experience in hiring leadership positions, then yeah, I don't care if they've been on a select board or, been on a town council before or whatever. leadership hiring is different.
But I will say this. I like the idea of having people who have worked closely with a
Town manager.
town manager slash administrator, who are familiar with some of the aspects that the general public isn't aware of. I've learned an awful lot in 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get 4 people, you've covered that base. You need some kind of input from
I
someone
don't
who's not
disagree.
sitting here. Or who hasn't sat here, I should say.
There's also a concentration of power issue we should be careful of. I mean, it's valuable to get like you said, a different
Well-rounded.
perspective.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so 2 separate groups,
5 and 5, select,
choose 2 from each group.
right, the select board 5 and the at-large 5. Did the door close on that, or is it possible that number changes?
Close on the 15th.
Okay,
Yeah, that's close.
Did you reach out to Alan?
I have not. I will.
So that would give us a tiebreaker.
It's not a.
No.
No, he makes it even.
He makes it even because
And 2 and
there's, no,
2.
no, but there are also the finance committee and.
Okay, yes,
We
okay.
have planning board, schools.
Those 3.
Do we have
have to rent the
representation
hall.
from school, all those other boards?
Yes.
Okay.
The chairs of each of those boards.
The chairs of, well, how does that
Well-
work from the schools?
It happens to be a,
Oh, have to be a
Manchester.
Manchester person? Okay.
Is it always that, or does that rotate?
It rotates.
So
Okay,
Jason.
all right. What to do?
Okay. Well, this one's going to be relatively easy.
this is an easy one.
This is the water ban. Is there a motion?
I move that the select board rescind the ban on outdoor water consumption effective immediately.
Second.
Further discussion? Jeff,
yes,
Brian,
Yes,
Kathy?
Yes.
Anne says yes.
Yes.
go ahead, what are you,
Liaison updates.
Actually, before we get to the,
Sure.
there's someone I guess we have
Should
sitting
we do the
here.
consent agenda first?
Do we? You're here for the
We'll
consent.
see, right?
I'm here for hit the streets.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, do we want to go through
Ah.
the consent agenda?
Sure.
We thought you were just here because you just
I
like to
just
see
wanted to
how
listen. Yeah.
We would-
It's nice though. It is nice
drags its
listening,
heels.
getting educated myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, the consent agenda, is there anything that anyone would like to take out of that agenda? So can we vote on it as a whole?
good to me.
I move the select board approve the consent agenda items.
Second,
Further discussion? Jeff,
yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes,
Anne says yes.
John, yes.
Excellent.
you're all set.
I'll
Thank
say.
you.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep you
I was
waiting.
trying to figure out which topic it was.
Thank you.
Just on the consent agenda, one of the items was the acceptance of Beth Heisey's
Yes.
resignation from the Housing Authority, effective the day before the election. So that means that it is an opening that people can get the nomination papers for and can anticipate running for that position. So this is a position on the Housing Authority.
And that has not been advertised at this point because there have been
Correct.
Let me hear you sign that.
ads to the list.
So right, this will be an addition to the list of vacancies.
Have we published the list of vacancies on committees recently? I think we still have an opening on the Downtown Improvement Committee and I don't think anyone's applied and, okay.
I'm
It might be
It's
good
up
to
there.
push.
I've been approached by someone that would get involved. She's very qualified for a lot of things, so.
Good.
No, I just happened Sunday, right? You know. Give me that look.
I'm just mentioning it might be good to put another Put another thing in
I
the
know they will.
cricket about the committees and
Yeah,
it's been a while.
I mean, is there any, I mean, so, FinCom's full, everyone else is full, right?
No,
Well,
FinCom is
FinCom is not full.
but it's
No, it is-
moderator's appointment.
he just appointed
Just a.
Oh, we did.
Gar Morse.
Oh, really?
Oh, the finance.
Yes.
Scar been on that before?
No,
No.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Under goes.
Okay,
Oh. Liaison,
yes.
I guess. Liaisons?
Yes.
First on the list here is the library. Probably saw the letter to the editor from Cynthia. They did not get the grant that they were looking for. Speak with briefly, there were seven towns that were in our particular category. We came in sixth. Which was
Oh,
not,
last.
it's not last, but it was six. There were four criteria there. One was, what's your per capita income, median per capita income? We didn't do well on that. Okay.
We do well on
Actually,
that.
we do.
For grant purposes, we don't do well on.
The rating was 1 to 20. We got a 1. And you want to get as many points as you can. The second one is what percentage of your town budget goes to the library? We spent $500,000 on a $40 million budget, but that did not impress them either. We didn't do much better than 1 with that. And the other one, the other ones were like, how much square feet do you need? And also the plausibility of where your expansion was. But by that time, we were well back in the pack on the raise. So
Last.
not last. They must have gained some ground on some of this. So the trustees are gonna have to kind of go back to the drawing board and decide what they're gonna do, but that's where the library stands. They were disappointed. DPW, they're on looking for wayfinding signs. They put in an order for them and the bill came back $12,000 for like 7 signs. Their budget for all of their signs in town for the year is $10,000. So they're going to look for another vendor. See what they can do. So they're working on that. And other than that, the seniors, I guess, where's there's an RFQ or
An RFQ out.
RFQ out for the
for
architect.
Yes,
The architect.
and they're due tomorrow, actually.
Was that due tomorrow?
I think tomorrow is, yeah, tomorrow.
That's enough.
Greg, does John know about it?
so,
Yeah, too. It's John.
so on the finance committee, I missed last week's meeting. They were supposed to discuss police and harbor and the revenue estimating program. That, it's been a lot of talk. How do we estimate our revenue each year during the budget season? So Sarah was promoting having some sort of a formula. Did that get decided or last week? Did I miss that?
No, they threw out a couple of formulas,
Okay, still working.
proposals, and then they're, take it up again.
All right, well, this week's meeting is on a Thursday night because Sarah must have a conflict with
She has
ZBA.
a ZBA meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so, and the subject is going to be the DPW budget. Next week is the school committee. 2.5 is the fire and 2.12 is town government and library.
They may swap school and,
Oh, they just with
Yeah.
fire,
and general government.
general government. Okay, so school's going to be on 219.
Yep.
They swap that.
Not for sure yet, but we're waiting to confirm.
But tomorrow night is still, Thursday night is still
Thursday night
DPW.
is DPW.
Okay.
DPW.
And then it was supposed to be February 27th, review of capital again.
Yeah.
So at what point do we, my question based on the liaison assignment here is, at what point do we want to talk with FinCom again about where we're at with the budget? Because we talked about having more conversations with residents and have a pretty clear idea as to what we have planned.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you should.
I plan to be at Thursday's meeting in person. I can do that. And maybe I'll just bring it up then. As well.
So I think you should, as a board.
Yeah.
Think about that. 2 minutes right now, just kick it around. I would say historically, it has, the board hasn't been that, could be more engaged.
Sorry, what's the drop dead date for submitting the budget for the warrant?
So that needs to be finalized by that last week of March.
The question is, do we want to meet with finance committee or have some type of review? You know, before like mid-March or early March, because I think the last planned item that I recall was February 27th meeting on capital. I didn't hear about any specific agenda items in March.
Right, but maybe that meeting.
Yeah.
Would be
Good one.
a good joint meeting, and then, you finish on capital, and then sort of, okay, where are we globally?
Is capital the last one, or is there anything after that? Okay, all right, so they've gone through all the operational stuff.
Right.
All right, that's good.
Are you suggesting a joint meeting after that one or?
I'm thinking at that one.
Or at that one, so that'd be a Thursday night.
Yes.
Are we open to that?
We took, what are we?
To meet with FinCom again on the budget.
No, I mean, what's date wise?
That's a Thursday night, February 27th is what Greg is proposing. You have to see if FinCom is agreeable to that.
Yeah, let me tell them they're agreeable.
We're having a meeting on March 3rd, I suspect, right? That's the first Monday of March.
Well, so we could do it then.
We can do it then.
I don't like that. It's up to you. For that whole week,
That's right.
it's first week of February, first week of March. But I do like February 27th.
We can probably show an arm.
I can probably do that.
Okay. So let's make sure we have an action to close out on when is our next joint meeting with the FinCom. We're proposing February 27th, but we'll have to pick an alternate if that doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that was a long liaison report. That's all I have because I knew this down.
Pick up what I got nothing.
Okay.
Planning board talked about, well, we already talked about a little bit, the ADUs by right, what kind of language they're gonna use as far as bringing stuff to town meeting. They also talked about mixed use downtown, retail and residential. But it looks like they're just trying to figure out what they're gonna actually work on to bring to town meeting at this point.
You think that's a result of, you and I have talked about the cargo building.
Yeah,
I think that's a,
But the ADU discussion?
No.
Retail on the first
Retail.
floor.
Oh, the retail on the,
residential.
I think that came out of the 3A discussions. I
It
remember
did,
hearing
yeah,
about
that's
that
where-
in a lot of the
Yeah, but
workshops.
still.
yeah. Retail on first floor, you couldn't count the residential stuff above that, or something like that. That was a problem.
You couldn't require.
You could, in 3A, they wouldn't allow you to require retail.
I know there was some,
And there's also, if you did allow, if somebody came in with a mixed proposal, part of it didn't count.
yeah,
It was
I
a
recall
mess.
something, it was,
It was,
I think it's right.
And the harbor advisory, most of the discussion was, about changing around moorings after the dredging. Putting all the sailboats together in one area and moving some of the power boats out to make more room. It looks like a good plan, but some people are gonna be upset with getting moved around, I'm sure. And Bayan made a mention about possibly grants for floating harbor master office. And I mentioned that the community center might be back.
No,
In
we talked
play.
about this last time. But
Yeah.
Right, and I said that, but he said he didn't feel like that was gonna work out.
I think that part of the.
So I don't know if we're,
Well, that's a
everybody's
discussion
on
for
the
other
same
time.
plan. Yeah, it's a discussion for another time, but
Because I
something,
think that,
something to think about.
part of the
anyway.
problem with a floating master's office is we shut off power and everything.
So that'd be seasonal.
Yeah.
Right,
So.
well, he was saying year round though, that's what he
Oh.
mentioned.
Like a houseboat for the harbormen?
Oh, let's,
Yeah,
let's,
so I don't-
let's not discount anything at this point.
I don't know, so I'm just
Also,
I'm just throwing that out there that it was
I've
discussed.
seen something at the boat show. I
No,
don't
no, he's been
know.
talking, he's been talking.
we
Yeah.
talked about this for a while,
And he can-
but I've always assumed it was seasonal.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of talked about the ramp and the ice, and so if that discussion was had, it must be a year-round situation, he's thinking.
It's a different building. no,
Yeah.
No,
Heat,
the,
insulation.
now, we know he was gonna keep the safety boat out all season. I didn't see it, but it responded to something last week.
It was at Crockett's
It's at Crockett's, that's where it keeps it.
Yeah,
because of the ice.
yeah, with this cold spell.
They put it to use last week, right?
Anyway, I'll follow up with Byron.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's just me, my-
didn't
my-
want to get into a discussion.
My
I just thrown
feelings,
it
and I've said this before, is that I think that the harbor master's office should be in the harbor. Anyway,
out. Yeah.
all right,
Yeah, the new Larkin Cottage at Essex Tech was a success, and
I think that-
yeah,
nice picture.
yes, incredible, with all the work that went
14
in
years.
and students and everything,
I
so,
drove by that thing for 3 years.
I mean, yeah, it was really nice to see, so it's good.
And, I missed a school committee meeting
As we speak.
done by now. Um. That's. They hope to lower the increase in the health insurance by switching vendors. Sometimes that works.
Where are they at?
What?
Where are they at?
I think the last they had was a 23%, 24% increase. Down from 27.
Have they considered an HSA?
They can't do anything.
Can't do anything.
Unions.
The union contract specifies everything about the health insurance.
No, I understand, but as part of the next negotiation, would they consider an HSA?
I would guess that the union would not.
I don't understand.
Yeah, you certainly can propose it.
But it's not going to dig them out this year.
Yeah.
23%.
Things that they if next year's budget is in the same range as this year's budget and they bail themselves out with reserves, they will be out of reserves at the next year. And there is kind of a circular argument that, well, we can't ask for an override now because that will poison Essex for school vote. Because people will see it on their tax bills when they're being asked to pay to do a debt exclusion for the school. And so you can't do it now. On the other hand, you can't do it later either because people will look at their tax bills for the school debt exclusion on it, and they're not gonna pass an operating override. And,
So it's just a matter, the shit's gonna hit the fan, it's just a matter of.
there'll be an awful one shift if they don't step up now, but, and then there's the question, if they have to, if they're going to have an override, listen. This may mostly have been a misunderstanding. That the school committee should not force Essex to have cannot force Essex to have an override, but they have to present a budget. And if they know that the budget is not going to fit in what Essex has left for, because Essex is no longer has, I've lost the word for the name.
Excess levy
Excess
capacity.
levy capacity. And they suggested getting the two finance committees together so that so that each finance committee understands. And that has happened with just the two finance committees. The suggestion is to have that happen with representatives of the school committee so that all three entities are represented, but I don't know if there's any progress on getting that.
Did they ever hire, I thought they were gonna hire some sort of a consultant that was gonna look at regional arrangements, some out of the out of a mass association or something like
Yes,
that.
they are about to undergo a review by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is a state agency, obviously interested in education, and they're looking at operations and administration. They review various other aspects, but they put themselves in the school district put itself in ahead of the list to get that. But
Does that affect this year's budget or that's a longer term?
the scary thing to me is that they had a review recently of their special education program. And it came back saying that they needed another level of administration in the.
Oh,
So if the review comes back that way.
yeah, wonder what else is gonna come back.
So,
Doesn't sound like a
Very-
financial.
Very
review.
frustrating. No,
Doesn't sound like a financial review. It
were they
sounded
not
like
given a
a,
mission?
I'm gonna give you a blank check review and what do you think done differently? I don't know.
Well, it's really focused on educational quality.
In other words, a blank check, yeah.
That was not.
That's
the
not what
question
we
to
asked
ask.
for.
No, I understand. That's what Bessie would do.
Oh, is that who, Bessie,
yes.
Yeah,
EESI or CI?
Yes.
ESC.
I mean, they do hire, they bring
It's an
as
outside
a
firm.
consultant, but it's through the State Department of Education.
Let me tell you how you can spend your money.
Or somebody else's money.
Yes, that's a better way of saying it.
Um,
That's frustrating.
They're, it's between the teachers and the teachers' aides, salaries are up about 8%. Which makes it really hard to come in, given that that's a vast,
Mhm.
large plurality.
When was the last teacher's contract?
Two years
It was
ago,
2 years ago.
2 years, so they got one more year.
they did one more year. They just did the TAs. And the TAs had not been unionized previously. And they expensive. They work hard, they're important. It's keeping the special education budget under control by having people in the classroom who can work with kids with needs. But they're a lot more expensive.
Wasn't the issues in Gloucester and Beverly surrounding TAs for the most part?
So, yeah, in Andover and everywhere else, yes.
So we,
Your next teacher's contracts, I guarantee is not gonna be cheap, so I guess.
Well, all the more reason we have to really advocate for being careful with the building solution.
Right.
And I'm gonna continue to advocate for a small kindergarten to second grade school.
they
For
are,
Essex.
the school building,
Yeah, shift more of the grades over.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I,
That has been referred to as the third rail.
okay.
I understand.
And
Do they want to
what
put
does it go
our,
to right now?
do they want to put our tax dollars towards human beings or brick and mortar? That to me,
Brick and
that's,
mortar goes over really well in Essex.
yeah, apparently. And
That's because we're paying 2/3 of that.
Well, no, I mean,
But
they put a ton of money into their town hall.
I know that.
It's gorgeous. Well.
The public
the
safety.
public safety.
and the
Public safety building.
building,
That's why they don't have any money.
no, they don't have any money because they don't have any tax base, but,
Well,
Well,
so. I don't
anyway,
know how that's gonna work, but maybe it will. The other thing is that I believe Essex is currently in negotiation with maybe there are only 2 unions.
Oh, right, yes.
is it safety or,
Yeah,
Police
police,
and
yeah,
DPW.
safety?
police and DPW.
DPW.
And those unions have the same complaint that everybody does, that they didn't get raises when inflation was high, and they're way behind. They're making less effectively now than they were 3 years ago. And so that's. On the other hand, if Essex has to do an operational override for their government, that might open up the possibility of doing a single override for the school and the town, which would be an easier pass than just the school.
I guess my worry is that you're gonna get into a vote for a new school over there. And then you're gonna have a teacher's contract on top of it, basically around the same time. That's gonna inflate things even further.
The school, I think the vote for the school building is, I think, 2 years out at this point.
It could be as soon as next spring.
It's kind of what I was
Just depends how quickly things move along.
Not 15 months.
Well, certainly if they choose to do a different organization of the schools, which requires an amendment to and that
Yeah, to the district.
to the district.
It's just, yeah, I mean, even if it's a year later, things are gonna be up against the wall there.
We're gonna have this discussion every year.
This is 3 years running now. I
Pardon?
think it's 3 years running.
You're getting closer
for us, it's
to,
every year.
you're getting closer to a joint town meeting.
Yeah, it's gonna be an
Right.
annual discussion. It's not gonna go away.
But
And those are gonna get way out of joint.
All right, well, I don't think we're
Okay.
gonna solve
No,
anything
that's all.
today.
Right.
I appreciate the update, I think.
Geez, thanks, man.
Yeah, well, everything else has been going great. We got an agreement to have lines painted. Hey,
Yeah. That's good. We'll take it.
You accomplished something.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll be brief.
Okay,
Just, we had on the action list DPW facility discussion this evening, but I think it makes more sense to get a little more information on the geotech study and some recommendations from the engineers about that site, to have a more intelligent discussion. So with any luck, that'll be at the next meeting. We'll have that. MMA annual meeting, Debbie and I will work with Ann.
It's marginalized.
We just need you to fill out a form online.
okay, sure. And, you know, when is it?
This Saturday.
This is Saturday, okay, yeah. Okay,
I mean, you-
I'll come in tomorrow and, is there anybody else who would really like to go to the MMA meeting?
Hey, John and I are
but
going.
I'm just Friday.
I was gonna go Friday and Saturday, but I have to have Greg be your delegate.
Okay, but. Bring back a good report.
Who's going here? Is Chuck went there last year. I think.
Chuck will go Thursday.
He'll go Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else from town or? Yeah,
I don't think so.
okay. Good.
Aggregation plan, this is electrical aggregation. There's a draft plan. It's really a boilerplate
I'll say.
from basically adhering to all the state regulations. The real meat of the matter then comes in after the plan gets approved by the state. Once the plan gets approved, it lays out the basic process. You hire a vendor, the vendor manages it. It's a requirement to be opt-out, that's a state law. Everyone's in unless they opt out, it's an active opt-out. Some other provisions in there about terminating, et cetera, but it's all based on the regulations that we have to follow. So once that plan is approved, then the vendor will meet with you, talk about the different products that could be offered. So there's typically a basic product which mirrors the portfolio mix that the state requires. And then you can do, you know, a half step up to more green or 100% green as options. So typically towns offer three options: the basics, the middle of the road, and the 100% green. So then once you make that decision, the vendor will go out and solicit bids on those three different products. You come back and present you the results of that bidding process and recommend a selection of a supplier. Once that happens, then we know all the numbers. Everyone gets a mailing and they're given a month to either opt in or I'm sorry, opt out, otherwise they're in. So that's the basic process. We should be, if things go smoothly and the market's right, we should be offering this within 6 months. So that's the update on that. Your open meeting law complaint that you responded to, the responses were accepted by the complainant. And so that's, the case is closed. Move on from that. Annual report in terms of production, how many? So last year we did not distribute it to every household. We printed about 1,200 copies. We had a lot of extra copies left over, even trying to give them away at the special town meeting. We still had lots of copies
And no complaints.
and no complaints.
All right. There's a
And no
message there.
Um, I'd like to see if we could. I suggest we print 600 rather than 400 or 500. Just on the off chance that we have another big town meeting. But
Well, this is the annual report, not the FinCom
right, but
warrant, right?
So the FinCom, we will still produce the 2,500 and mail to
The
everybody.
white, the white.
The white booklet, yes.
Many towns have moved towards digital.
Most have.
Most have.
Right.
They
it will
just,
be available online.
Yes,
Oh, sure, fine.
Yeah.
then.
Let's
Just
do, let's do 450, and then next year we'll drop it again.
Yeah, we'll cut it in half again, so. 45, I'm okay. Whatever.
Okay, longevity benches, just have to find a couple of new spots. Pulling back from some permission that was tentatively given, at least we'll be back in for those new locations. And then just something I don't have on my list here, but we did receive a complaint about National Grid doing some work causing the electricity to be out to a neighborhood for the day.
It's not
Homes
good.
cool down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot.
they don't do it if it's below 20 degrees, but even at 25
Still,
degrees,
yeah.
things cool down. I'm actually meeting with National Grid tomorrow for something else, but I think I would be happy to mention that. to them,
Yeah.
that Please make every effort not to do that, to avoid that.
Gloucester was supposed to have one like on the 20th. I think it was actually today. And I got a notice.
Can we set a standard that doesn't allow, I mean, they say, you know, below 20, what happens if the town says you can't do any, you know,
40,
Yeah.
32.
but yeah, so yeah,
You know, that-
35.
that becomes a town bylaw or, you know.
I don't, I have to find out, I don't know if we have that authority.
Good question to ask.
Should be above freeze.
Talk about Comcast, turn off my cable for them.
There's pain.
Uh,
There's pain.
First world problems, pal.
Yeah.
Actually, it never happens when I'm home anyway, so I don't care.
So that's what I have.
Good.
In that case, we should enter into executive session for MGL chapter 30A, section 21A6 to consider purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and not to return to open session.
You will return to open
We
session,
will return to open session.
most likely,
Okay.
very briefly.
And I do declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body.
Second.
Dawn,
Yes.
Anne says yes.
Yes.
Kathy, Brian,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yep.
Well, I can tell him. that he
Yeah,
needs
we'll
to
shut
turn-
down.
And then go back on or
No,
no?
we'll be in open session, but we don't have to, we're not required to be on.
Oh,
That's true.
That's anyone who wants to know what the result was, they can find out tomorrow.
Okay.
There won't be any public comment at all.
Bye.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
okay.
Yes.
So we never found out what the problem was. It just,